Hello movie fans and welcome to Lost in the Reel. Today I am so excited to be reviewing the new horror thriller Drive Back, which is the feature directorial debut of one of my dear friends from middle school and high school, Cody Ashford. And make sure to stay tuned after the review for my interview with Cody where we talk all about the movie. But, as is always the case, I will be fair and just in my review as I give you my personal pros and cons of what I thought about Drive Back. So, let's talk about it. Drive Back follows a couple on their way home from their engagement party who take a shortcut down a windy forest road into the depths of hell. Not only hunted by a deranged killer, the two slowly start losing their minds and have to come to terms with the issues in their relationship as they try to figure out a way to safety. I love that we live in a world where independent horror films by new, fresh voices can actually see the light of day. It's nearly impossible to get a film financed these days, especially ones with a mostly unknown cast and an unproven writer and director. But horror movies are sometimes able to break that mold by just coming forth with innovative ideas and a really damn good hook. So it is with the new horror film, Drive Back. The film does have some very familiar tropes of this genre. A couple at odds with one another, a shortcut in the woods, being hunted by a killer in the woods, etc. But writer John Sorrow and director Cody Ashford make sure that those tropes are just the amuse-bouche of their film and not the main course.
The French call it an amuse-bouche.
This is a movie where you think you know everything that is going to happen in the first 30 minutes, and then it starts throwing curveball after curveball at you until you are completely disoriented and fully locked in to the story at hand. Speaking of feeling disoriented, this is the first horror film I've seen in a long while that has induced me with such anxiety by its claustrophobia and mindfuckery at play.
I don't know, like Carnival of Mindfuck.
Without giving too much away, our two leads start going a little crazy on this shortcut in the woods. They begin to forget things, they keep running into the same roadblocks, they begin repeating the same stories, and they know, as does the audience, that something very, very wrong is happening that is completely out of their control. Add to that the isolation on this long-forgotten road in the woods and the feeling of being trapped with no way out, and it is a recipe for slow-building tension that is palpable and at times excruciating. None of this would have worked or would have even been watchable if its two leads weren't a compelling team. Because Drive Back is basically a two-hander with a few supporting performers sprinkled in throughout. But Zach Gold and Whit Kunchik as Reed and Olivia are phenomenal here. What I love about the film is we don't get much about who these characters are at the beginning, but the screenplay methodically reveals to us all of their many layers as they are stuck in this hellscape trying to fight for their lives. Gold and Kunchik are put through the absolute ringer in what must have been a very grueling shoot in the wilderness.
Yeah, that was rough on all of us.
But it brings out in them such raw, captivating performances. Low-budget horror is sometimes known for its cringy acting, but luckily, Drive Back does not fall into that camp. Now, let's talk about the blood and guts. About 30 minutes into the movie, there was a part of me that felt like this was not going to be much of a scary horror movie, but more of a campy thriller. And I'm happy to report that I was very wrong about that. Drive Back not only provides some extremely effective jump scares, but also a sense of dread and unease throughout that constitutes for very effective scares. Add in some truly top-notch practical and CGI effects that are shockingly gruesome, and you have horror firing at all cylinders. Of course, with all movies, they have their cons, and Drive Back is certainly not without those. The first thing that comes to mind is that it does take quite a while to get where it's actually telling a concrete story. The first 30 minutes or so are fine, but there's not a whole lot of character building going on, and the audience is left wondering, where is this film going and what is the point? Fortunately, there is a moment in the film when all of that changes, and it thrusts you into this gripping, nightmarish hellscape. But it does take quite a while to get there. The other con that I have, which is actually a con that I've had with a lot of horror films this year, is that Drive Back feels like a short story with a very strong initial concept that is stretched out to a 90-minute runtime. Now, this might feel like that because of the meandering first act, budget limitations, or possibly because it does have a seemingly very simple structure to it. But I do think that Drive Back adds more meat to its bones as it goes along, and it has enough tricks up its sleeve that it does end up constituting that feature-length runtime. While I do love genre movies in every shape and form, I think the ones that stick with me the most are the ones that have something to say. The ones that start out as one thing and then metamorphosize into something completely different by the end. I love horror films that make us look at our own mortality and morality in a way that can be even more frightening than anything we've seen up on the screen. And I've said it many times before, and I will say it again, but I love a movie that immediately after watching makes you want to talk about it with anyone and everyone who will listen, and then who will also chime in afterwards. And I think Drive Back has all of those qualities and more. So I really just want to say I am so proud of my friend Cody Ashford. This is an incredible feature film debut, and I hope all of you take the time to check Drive Back out because it is worth your time. Thank you so much for watching Lost in the Reel. What are your thoughts on Drive Back? The ending has proven to be pretty divisive so far, so I'd love to hear whether you think it worked or if you would have liked to see something else happen. Also, what are some of your favorite independent, more low-budget horror films that you've enjoyed this year? Sound off in the comment section down below, and make sure to stay tuned for my interview with director Cody Ashford. Hello everyone, welcome to Lost in the Reel. This is Sean, and I am so excited to be here with my good friend from middle school and high school. We did 6 years of drama together, and now he has a feature directorial debut that we're going to be talking about called Drive Back, and his name is Cody Ashford. How's it going?
Oh, Sean, thanks for having me. I've been so excited to do this. I cannot believe that we survived the most awkward years of our life to make it to getting to do a podcast and a YouTube video about this.
Yeah, 15 years later, and here we are.
You were my first like true video collaborator besides my siblings. The stuff that we made at your house when we were in like 7th and 8th grade. I was messaging you the other day about when we got to go to the drama room and hold our auditions for a movie that I wrote that we definitely never filmed, but like it was cool to go through that process.
It was definitely cool, and we felt so powerful in that moment, you know, like we're all gonna cast you, but we're not gonna make the movie. Sorry about it.
But like, yeah, like we think you should be this part, but like we don't know how to film this. Yeah.
So, like I said, we are talking about Drive Back. It is a new film coming out in limited release and also on PVOD this Friday, right?
This Friday, November 8th.
Perfect. So, Cody, let's get into it. First and foremost, let's talk about Drive Back and just describe it for our audience.
Yeah, so Drive Back is a horror thriller with a sci-fi twist that's about this couple, Reed and Olivia. They're coming back from their engagement party, and after a near accident, they kind of get some bad directions and end up on this weird shortcut. And then they start to realize they might be forgetting some things. They might be coming across the same part of the road again and again. And then when their car breaks down, they realize someone's hunting them in the woods.
Yep, it's like a descent into hell. That's literally the whole entire time I was thinking about this film. I'm like, I'm literally, as this movie is going on, like I'm getting more anxiety. The tension is building throughout this film, and it just crescendos into something crazy. So
I'm really glad you felt that, because one of my first pitches to my producers was like, I want it to feel like a bad nightmare. Like I want it to feel like you can't escape along with the characters and kind of this claustrophobic mess.
Oh, you definitely created that, Cody. So I kind of want to start at the very beginning. How did you get involved in the first place in the making of this movie?
So I went to film school right for college, and then once I was done with that, I did the PA thing for a little bit. I did the writer's room assistant thing for a little bit, and then I moved back to my hometown and became a teacher. And I taught drama, I taught film, and I met Chris Loafing and Travis Clough from Tremendum Pictures, who have done The Gallows 2, Held, and have produced a lot of different things in town. They did Held, yeah, which you gave. I was gonna do this a bit later on, because I was brushing up on your work too, Sean. You gave it a couple glasses of whiskey.
I did, yes, I did.
So, but they did that, and so I met them at a local event, and I literally I shot my shot where I was like, hey, I'm a writer, I'm a screenwriter, I'm teaching right now, but like, this is what I'm trained to do. This is what I love to do. And I cold called them, gave them some scripts. And so I was writing on spec for Tremendum for the past several years. And it's probably about 2018, 2019. And then COVID hit. But in the middle of COVID, I wrote a pilot for them, an unreleased pilot called Deacon Jones, starring King Batch, Andrew Batchelor of like TikTok and Instagram. Yeah. And so we filmed that, and it was great. It was super fun, but it hasn't found a home yet. But in that process, Tremendum was contacted from another company called Rotting Press, led by Zach Locke, who used to be at Blumhouse and a few other places. And he brought them the script from John Sorrow, who wrote Drive Back, and basically said, hey, we think we could film this in the Fresno area. Are you guys interested in doing this? And Chris and Travis were basically like, hey, we kind of want to just try producing this, and we want to give Cody a chance to direct and see what he would do. So when they first sent me the script, though, oftentimes like what they've done, and I've been very grateful, is they would send me a script that someone had sent them, and they're like, hey, like, do you want to try maybe doing some punch-ups on this, or seeing what can change or be a little different? And so I would take a stab at it. So when I first got this script, that's literally what I thought this was, whereas it was going to be like, so I basically did treatment on it and was like, hey, I really think we could film this up in the mountains. I think that we could really focus on this couple's relationship. Like, that's at the heart of John's script already. But what if we like doubled down, like made that the hell that they're experiencing? And they're like, awesome, that was your audition to direct. So now you just got to pitch it to the other guys. So I went from thinking that I was just going to help like make this script Fresno filmable to getting to direct my first feature.
Woo, that's huge.
So what we knew, though, is that script first came to me in at the end of May in 2022, and they knew in order to make it, we wanted to film before it got snowy in the mountains by the end of fall and winter. So if you're counting, that's a very small timetable for a first-time director to assemble his cast, assemble his crew, and storyboard and shot list and do all of that.
Yeah, definitely. That's a lot. I can't wait to get more into it.
Yeah.
I want to know, as a first-time feature director, what was it like? What was your experience like? Like, did you feel like you got a lot of guidance, or were you kind of like left out on your own? Like, how was that whole process?
So I had so much guidance. I think if anyone is doing their first time feature and it's not a script that they originally wrote, but one that they're getting to like adapt and working with, Chris and Travis come from the indie world. Like that is their scene. They shot The Gallows for micro budget. And so approaching them and being able to say like, hey, can we, maybe spoiler alert, like light someone on fire or do something like that. And they were very much like, yeah, we'll figure that out. And so I think I had a lot of guidance with that. I definitely had them checking in with me regularly, and I knew I could go to them with any questions. And so I feel like that was a really awesome way to have such mentors as producers for my first time out. Yeah.
Because I've definitely heard about experiences where you're like a first time feature director and they just like throw you out into the, to the wolves. And they're like, you just do your thing. And it's like, I have a vision, but I don't know how to make that vision happen. So it's so cool that you had producers who had your back and who were really supportive of you.
I really did. And it didn't just stop with producers. My cinematographer, who I'm sure we'll talk about later on, Lucas Patasi, has done so many different independent and low budget films. And so I knew like having someone who was so veteran at this and was able to also help me through these different things. My actors, Zach Gold and Whit Kunchik were just experienced. So it's like my best advice for a first time director is to be this is so bad. This is such bad advice, but be the greenest one on set, because you have a story to tell. And obviously I've done theater since I was 12. And so I come from that background. And so I knew how to talk with actors. I knew how to talk with this is what I feel like the drama of the scene is, but I had so many people backing me up on all of the technical sides. And this was a surprisingly technical project, as we'll talk about in a little bit, I'm sure.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
There's so many, and yes, we'll talk about it later, but I was just every scene, I'd be like, oh my God, this, how did he do that? So impressive.
Thanks, man.
But I want to go to the script.
Yeah.
I know you kind of said that the script was it brought on to you to kind of work on?
Yeah, so when John first brought it, he knew John Sorrow, writer of this script, great guy. And it was such a cool collaboration between the two of us, because John wrote this during COVID with the idea of wanting to write something that could be filmed, wanting to write this two-hander that was there, two people in a car and then in the woods, could be shot ultra low budget. And through our conversations with each other, we were really able to attack the characters of Reed and Olivia. And something that was so important was we had both had past relationships, or even in just romantic relationships or friendships in general. You have these cycles of arguments that you can't escape, and that you keep going back to the same point of contention again and again and again. And even though it's easy to blame one party for something that happened, at the end of the day, if both people are choosing to be in the relationship, both people are also potentially their worst selves in it.
Absolutely.
And that's what we really wanted to bring out. And so John first pitched it to me as he loves the Twilight Zone. And so we really wanted to pitch it as I want it to be a Twilight Zone episode. And I'm like, okay, cool. What would that look like as a feature length thing, but still having he really loved the idea of in Twilight Zone, something happens that's not explained and characters learn a lesson from it. And I'm like, I can get behind that. I can I can really understand that. And as someone who will die for the show Lost, I can really get behind that. And so John and I had a really fun summer getting to work on these characters and figure out where they were going, what we wanted it to be, what were some of the twists and revelations that we'd get to talk about a bit. But at its core, it was that. And we also have a big foundation for the movies that we grew up with in the mid 2000s that were these kind of weird sci-fi adjacent horror films that would start off one way and feel really tropey at first, and then would get completely batshit. And I think that was what we wanted to capture as well.
Yeah, I was really excited, and obviously no spoilers here, but I was really excited to see where this film went and all of the surprises that it has in store. And maybe saying sci-fi is one of the genres is maybe giving a little bit of
Yeah.
spoilers, but like I do love that there is that added mix in there, and it's very unexpected.
Cool. I'm super glad that it was unexpected. I feel like that's funny as talking to my wife and some of my friends that know me, they're like, oh, like of course you do this. And I was like, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Um, so I want to talk about the actors
Yeah.
because your two lead actors in this film, and in like low budget horror,
Yeah.
you get a lot of really schlocky, not great acting, right? They're doing their best, but like you have two actors in this film who are fully committed
I know.
and who are fantastic. Like
Yeah.
they're I was so like taken by both of them. So I want to know, what was the casting process like for you? How did you find these two?
Oh man. So I'm glad you can also see how much I lucked out with
Yeah,
these amazing talents, and I could not be more grateful for Zach and Wit, and even the extended cast of
absolutely.
Madonna McGee, of Bobby who played the dad, of Crystal who played the friend, and my one of my best friends, Eric Vu, who
Eric
got
Vu. I was gonna say
to
we have to say Eric Vu. I
yeah.
love that scene so much. It put a giant smile on my face.
I'm so glad. But Zach and Wit, one of the best parts of getting to work as kind of a collaboration between Tremendous Pictures and Rotting Press is they both brought their slate of actors. And so
Mm,
we did an open casting call. We had it up on all sorts of actors access, different things, and we knew that we were going to be SAG-AFTRA affiliated, so that already opened up a great tier of veteran actors. But Zach and Wit were both ones that came recommended from the producers, and so from each side. And so we auditioned several people, but they both did amazing individual auditions. And I think the audition piece for Reed, for Zach's character, was when he was telling the story that he
mm,
tells a few times, and I had
yeah.
him tell it a few different ways. And then the audition for Olivia, for Wit's character, was so much of like her kind of reacting to different
Mm.
things. And so those were both great. Those were amazing to watch. But once we put them together
Oh yeah.
in the same room, and so Wit is not based in California, she's out in Oklahoma.
Oh,
So we did their like chemistry test over Zoom, and it was just like it was game over. It was just, I was like, this is the
nice.
movie. Like, and I think we all felt that. I felt that, the producers felt that, they felt that. And so I think once we did that and we saw kind of the lightning that I felt like they were going to be together, it not only, I think, shows on the screen, but it really
Mm,
informed what their relationship was going to look like.
yeah.
And I definitely know that was something after they were cast. I even went back to John, our writer, and was like, hey, take a look at this with me, like, and showing him the chemistry test and being like, what are you thinking? 'Cause this is how I'm feeling. And we kind of started altering a few things based on our actors as well. And that continued throughout the entire shooting process.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I So in the script, there's not a lot to like really set you up with the dynamic between the two. You really like learn as you go with them.
Yeah.
So the fact that they were able to create that chemistry and you're learning while you're watching and seeing it through their performances is just really amazing.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. I think that was something that was so important too, is like we wanted it to seem like here's the stereotypical Instagram couple, right?
Mhm.
They're both extremely hot. They're both
Yeah.
extremely charismatic, and like on paper they should work. And then finding out why they might not as the
Yeah.
drive continues was really kind of at the premise of the story.
Yeah. It was done so well. Um, I want to get into, what was the most difficult part of the shoot?
Dude,
Because I feel like a lot of it was probably difficult.
so oh man, okay, so we shot on a mountain. We shot on a
Yeah.
mountain. We shot in the elements. my wonderful first assistant director, JD Forties, he has a saying where he's like, a lot of people for their first movie make a cabin in the woods movie. Cody made a woods around the cabin movie. And so we were
I
up
love
there
that.
in just the freezing cold. And so like Wit, who was not pregnant in real life when we were filming, like in that artificial belly that she was wearing, she had like those like warming hot hands like stuck in her belly. She had them in her socks because it was so cold. And flashing back to the winter of 2022, like winter came early and it came strong. And so those night shoots, we were fighting against the elements. Like we had pieces of gear that were freezing. We were up in the mountains, and then like to be completely honest, we got snowed out. So we had to cut our principal photography short, and we didn't get to pick back up again until June.
Oh my God.
So we originally filmed in November, we got snowed out. And so when we finally came back in June, it was really cool, honestly, because we got to like edit everything and know we need these exact shots to finish the movie. Which like you can't tell, but we filmed some of the forest stuff in our hometown of Clovis, California.
Really?
Like literally right down the street from where we grew up, like where I made movies growing up.
I need to rewatch this and see.
Yeah, like it's seamless, but it's like it's off of Clovis Avenue. It's off of a busy street. We filmed some of the final showdown just shooting a very specific way towards a canal that looks exactly like Yosemite because it's all dark. Yeah,
that's so cool. I love it. The magic of filmmaking.
It was, so that part was really, that was the hardest part, was fighting against the elements. But I just like, I had such a kick-ass crew that was willing to do whatever it took. And I just like, I'm still just so humbled by the experience that I had people that were willing to like stand out there in the cold, actors that were willing to get like drenched in blood and then go back to a cabin that had pipes that froze over and not be able to wash it off. Like, it's just like so many of the horror stories were not from the actual set. Like we were flying with that. It was just for some of the situations that were so out of our control.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. What was your favorite scene to film?
I think I have a few, but one of my favorite scenes is without spoiling too much, there's a scene in the middle. It's kind of the first not real turning point, but once we play with the idea of what is happening, it provided an opportunity where we got to do the same scene like 3 or 4 different ways and kind of just edit it together. And so that was super fun for me, coming from an improv background and a theater background and even a writing background, to just get to like say, hey, these are the lines that we have rehearsed for months. I want you to do this like you're drunk. Hey, I want you to do this like you are losing your mind as you say this. I want you to do this like you're in Shakespeare or in Lord of the Rings and be over dramatic. And so the editing of this sequence, I think, is super fun and really kind of fulfilled on the promise of what we had going for it. And I think it's really kind of like the midpoint of the film before it changes again, because I feel like that's something I really like about the film, is that it changes kind of like 3 times into a whole different movie. So that was one of my favorite scenes to film. And yeah, I think that was one. There's a couple any of the other scenes that are just like, spoilerific, but that was one that was so memorable for everyone, because we were just cracking up with some of the actors' interpretations that like ended up making it into the final film.
Yeah, I know exactly what scene you're talking about, and I love that scene because it is very much a turning point in the movie, but also I was like, this would be super fun to film.
It was so fun.
It also made me feel like I was losing my damn mind.
I'm so glad that was the goal. So I'm really glad that's how it felt.
So this is a little introspective, but
yeah,
we took 6 years of drama together.
Love it.
Like I said before, but do you think that you learned anything in those 6 years? And if you took those things, were you able to use them towards this whole experience?
Yeah, so I don't even know if you know this part of my story, Sean, but I ended up like our middle school drama teacher, Danette Bathauer, shout
Mhm.
out to her. I ended up taking over her position.
I did know
Like,
that,
yeah, so I ended up taking over her job.
which
So
is
I
crazy.
I literally got to inherit all of the same materials that you and I grew up on.
Mhm.
And so it was super cool getting to learn about drama now from the other side and theater now from the other side. Obviously, I've been to college and I'd been writing for years at that point, but um, I think what I really brought into this was truly like the same thing that I teach my students, which is like, what is the objective of the scene?
Yep.
Like what does the character want? What are the different things they're trying to do to get it? And then how does that fall apart? And I really feel like that was something that John and I took when we were working on the script together. But really, like when working with the actors, it was exactly that. It was them asking me, like, why am I doing this? Why does he want to stay in this
Mm.
relationship after this happens, or how am I feeling during this moment? And like all of that came back to middle school drama, like all like in the silliest way. It's like I've definitely think I've grown up since then, but
Yeah.
but at the same time it's like all of those same types of um character games and story games that you do, like that's everything that I think of whenever I open up like Final Draft, the script writing document. Like that's what I think about whenever I'm working with the actors to try to block a scene.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. I think about those years and I feel like there's so many different things that have stuck with me
Yeah.
and and what I've used from those years like towards my life, which is just like it's crazy. I don't think like from a lot of classes I don't think I learned anything, but definitely in drama I learned a whole lot about living.
I think it is, and it's living, and it's like, and when you're making a film, our high school drama teacher, Julie Andrews, not that
Yep,
Julie Andrews, a different one.
different one.
She always had a motto that was like the play is the thing,
Yep.
right? And I think that was the biggest part on the movie is like when things were going so frustrating with weather things outside of our control. It's like we're all still working towards this project, and it's like the makeup being consistent on someone's face is just
Mhm.
as important as making sure the lighting is consistent, which is just as important as making sure like our catering gets here on time to like feed our performers. And so it's just like um we really lucked out with a great crew that was able to like just take care of each other. I think is probably the biggest takeaway that you learn in any type of drama class, which is like you really do become a crew and a family as you work towards that.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. So, one thing that I was taken by from this film is the impressive effects in this movie.
Yeah.
So I want to know, and it's both practical and CGI. I assume
Yeah.
there's some CGI in the film as well. So how was your experience working with VFX first and foremost, but also how did you stretch your budget to make those moments come alive?
So once again, these are the perks of getting to work with a team like Tremendum. Um,
Mm,
so so Chris and Travis have had a lot of experience from making a shoestring budget go from here to here. And they're also VFX pros themselves. So
gotcha.
almost all of the VFX that you see, and there are a shocking amount, are Chris and Travis working their magic, are them behind the scenes, and it was a lot of them on set. I'll give a
Mm,
great example. There's several scenes where there's characters that are having hallucinations of individuals covered in blood,
mm,
right? They were practically covered in blood. There was blood everywhere on set, but then they were enhanced a little bit more in the post VFX. And I think one of the reasons why they look so great is it's that combination of practical and technological that like
yeah,
is there for a reason. I think it's been kind of like a weird taboo recently. Like there's so many projects that have been like, we don't like this was 100% practical. And it's like, no, it wasn't. like
right.
that's not true. Like stop saying that and like discrediting your VFX artists. And so
Absolutely.
it's so I was very thankful that we had VFX artists that were such pros. But I think one of the biggest VFX things, and this is not a spoiler, is like almost anytime they're in a car, um,
Yeah.
like we basically made a poor man's volume, like that they shoot the Mandalorian on.
Oh, nice.
We had 3 giant 85-inch screen TVs that were on either side of the car, and we would move them around depending on which side of the car we were filming. And then once again, this is how the theater part ties back into it. We used a theater program called Q Lab, where essentially we ran plates that we had shot earlier to emulate them driving. So all of that was done in real time too. So that was really cool too, because it's like, you know, there's just so many horror stories of actors like trying to act against green screen or blue screen, and it just being like an absolute shit show because they're like, what do I do? Our actors got to feel the movement, got to feel the car slowing down.
Yeah.
And I really think it cuts pretty seamlessly with moments of like, literally there's one sequence in particular. It's when they first encounter the killer, where we go from, we're on location, we're in the studio in the car, we're on location on a different day, we have an insert shot, we're back here, the car's really moving, someone else is driving. That just like, I think maps really well together. So a lot of VFX throughout, but it really was, like you said, it was a combo of the practical as well as the computer side of things. And really it was Chris and Travis, my producers, being like, and I think credit to them too, not only for doing this and slaving over it, but also for never telling me no. Like there was huge. It was so huge, but there was things I would pitch them where I was like, what do you think about this? And they're like, yeah, I think we can do that, let's figure it out. And so very thankful to have that on board.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of producers, all they do are say no. So to have producers that are like, yeah, I like that idea, go for it. You know, that's amazing. And I want to go back kind of just like to what you said about like people talking crap on CGI or whatever. I feel like the horror movies for so long were just using CGI and not using practical effects at all anymore. And I love what you said about it's like the mix of two. There's something magical about doing both practical and like CGI and mixing them together and creating something seamless. And I really saw that in this movie.
I'm super glad.
I was just so impressed by the VFX work here.
I think that was really important to me, and we had an amazing practical special effects artist named Rob Vargas, and he was our blood guy. He was our body in the tree guy. He was he designed the killer's costume as well. So I'm sure we'll get to that soon, but it's like, but having Rob just really be like, what do you want the blood to look like? Like, how do you want it to come out? Like, what do you want it to be? He was just so on top of it with making sure. And so like, you know, we went in doing the practical side of things already looked great. And it was just that VFX side got to knock it up, I think, even more.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I kind of got a little gist of the fact that you had to go back and film more, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But what was the post-production process like?
So, once again, because we got snowed out on the mountain, we were able to go into post right away, in a way that we were able to have a pretty solid assembly cut by the time that we needed to film our pickups. So we knew what we needed to get, and so I literally I storyboard obviously with drawings, but most of the time with action figures. And so I was able to like literally be like, this is how the final showdown will be. These are the shots that we get. And like honestly use it as a proof of concept to show the producers, the DP, the AD, who were like, can we really film this all on the street in Clovis? And I'm like, if it's dark enough and we only film these ways, I don't think we lose anyway. And I think it'll work. And so the post-production was really going through, and it was just honestly a really cool time because we were able to like strategically pick what we were going to attack in our pickups. And we had built into the very beginning, and Chris and Travis have learned this from their past projects, where it's like, hey, like, don't plan for reshoots, don't plan for pickups, but plan for it. Like let's kind of bake this in. And so we knew we had that, but what was, spoiler alert for indie filmmaking, like part of what you're doing when you're not with the rest of your cast and your crew is you as the director and your producers and a skeleton crew are going around and getting all the insert shots and the special effects shots and the driving shots yourself on weekends on like, hey, it's foggy today, can you take off work and come film this? Yes, I can. Like so that was what a lot of post-production was. But then during that time, our editors, Andy and Aaron, they're based in Utah, and they run a great little company called Timber Pictures. They would edit a sequence and send it back, and then I would get to give notes, and we'd consolidate some things, and then we'd send it back. And so it was really interesting getting to do it that way. And honestly, I know there's some directors who are able to like sit in the edit booth the entire time and get to do that. Like, once again, like I had a full-time job, and they were in Utah. And so what was really cool was honestly getting to kind of treat the scenes or the sequences in the same way that I would get to like kind of direct a theatrical scene, where it's like, here are my bigger notes. Can we change this? Can we tighten this? Can we adjust this? And they were awesome at it. They were so good at that. That allowed Chris and Travis that time to do a lot of the VFX. And it also allowed our wonderful composer, Richard Breakspear, to make just some haunting noises. And during that time too, he got this machine, Sean, that was like, it's this weird metallic thing. And so it literally, like, some of the noises that you hear, it's like he was literally like grating almost like a xylophone hammer over like car parts that made this weird mechanical noise. And then we had two great sound mixers and sound editors. Brandon Jones, who has worked on Wicked, Planet of the Apes, like just has a murderer's row of sound design cues. And then Dimitro, who's essentially Brandon like kind of apprenticed, who is based out of the Ukraine, who did so much great work for our project. So it was great. It was great to be able to do that and then get to attack it. And then ironically enough, which I feel happens, that first scene in the film, that prologue scene with Reed as a kid, that was the last scene we shot. And so that was something that we just like, we knew we wanted kind of one more beat before we went into the engagement party. It just like, it felt like it needed something. And it was an idea that we had tossed out really early on, but then we kept going back to like, what if we got to see this kind of important story to the character, and then get to flash to it a few times. That was the last thing we shot. That was with a real quick skeleton crew, once again in Clovis, not in the mountains, just down the street from us. I
mean, it looked great. The deer looked real. I was like, dang, like that
was our coolest practical effect, I think, because it was just a taxidermy deer head that we just wiggled like on the side, like puppeteered it. Yeah,
it looked great.
Thanks.
So you've had a exciting couple of months, or I would say month maybe, and you've been going around to all these different places, all these different premieres for your film. What has the film festival experience been like?
It's been wild. It's been very fun. We have played in some really cool places. There's something so special about getting to watch your film with an audience that has not seen it. One of my favorite memories, Popcorn Frights, which was in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That was technically our first official premiere, where I got to sit next to Whit Kunchik, our actress that plays Olivia, and it was the first time that she had seen it. And so I got to sit next to her as we're in the audience and we're watching it, and the scares are working, people are into it. And there's a scare pretty close to the end that even got her, and she's like the cause of the scare in the movie. And so that was amazing to see. It was just see her react. But we won Scariest Film Award at that festival, which was just such an honor. I'm really sad we didn't get to go to London, where it premiered at Fright Fest London, which was pretty wild to think that my film has been to London before I am. We also got to play at Nightmare in the Ozarks, where we won the audience favorite award, which is
Amazing.
really cool. And then we got to play really close to home. We got to play at Screamfest LA in the Chinese Theater, which that was only, yeah, I know. That was only a few weeks ago. And I literally just could not believe it that entire time, walking up to it, getting to sit down, doing the Q&A afterwards. And it's just been very cool getting to hear people's reception of the film, getting to hear what they think, getting to hear them argue about some of the elements of the film, and what it means or what it's about. But it's just been really awesome getting to hear what people liked about it, and getting to see the people who worked on it just be really proud of the product. I think that's been something that's been so great to see.
Absolutely. For me, I feel like if you have people arguing about your movie and it being divisive and people going back and forth, like that is the biggest testament to the film's quality,
Well, I'll
right?
take
Because
it. Yeah.
people have all these opinions and they want to talk about it. Like, if no one was talking about it and everyone's like, yeah, that was good, but people are arguing about it, that's great.
I really want to do, like, at some point near the end, like a spoiler warning part with you, so we can talk about it, because I want to
Yeah,
know what you think. But yeah,
I would love that. So kind of nearing the end here, but what is next for Cody Ashford?
So I know I mentioned off camera earlier, I'm in an MFA program. So I am doing the David Lynch screenwriting program, and so I'm working on a few projects for that right now. I have a few other scripts that have been circulating. One of my friends, Eric Vu, who's in the movie, he's been one of my unofficial writing partners since we were 8th graders. We have a few projects that we are, kind of shopping around town, doing some things. But I'm really, yeah, I've just got a few projects right now, some that I hopefully can talk about like really soon.
Yeah.
That we're working towards right now. Still kind of staying in that I love genre bending things. I love things that seem like they're one thing and then become something else, and just really focus on the characters at heart. And so a lot of my projects that I'm working on and pursuing, whether that's in a producing standpoint, a writing standpoint, or a directing standpoint, like all are in that vein. So
Love it.
it's not necessarily straight horror, but it's kind of a continuation, I'd say, kind of a spiritual successor to Drive Back.
I love it. Keep the theme going. And last but not least, what would you like the audience to take away from Drive Back after they finish watching it?
Yeah, I think something that is so at the core of Drive Back on two fronts. I'll give a story point, and then I'll give like a professional personal point.
Yeah.
On the story point, it's really easy to have circular arguments with the people that you love. And it's really easy to keep coming back to pointing out someone's faults or flaws or indiscretions in the past. But the biggest monsters that we could make in the relationship might sometimes be ourselves. And so kind of taking stock of your own approach to certain things, and trying to figure out like how much of the problem are you in that, and what does that look like if you take a step back. I think that's kind of at the heart of this. We're all a little fucked up.
Yeah.
And it's easy to point out someone else's fucked upness more than it is our own sometimes, because we might not even know it exists. And from a professional standpoint, from like a directing, writing, filmmaking standpoint, surround yourself with people who know more than you. Surround yourself with people who are skilled and experienced and believe in the project, and you're gonna make something cool that hopefully your 7th grade self in drama would be proud of. So yeah,
Absolutely. I love that. I think I love your advice about like surrounding yourself with people who have experience, who know things, because I feel like so many people come in with like all this pride, and it's like throw that pride to the
throw it out.
side.
Throw it out.
And
Yeah.
just like soak all of it in, learn as much as you can from
Yeah.
all the people around you. I love that.
100%. Yeah.
Well, Cody, this has been amazing. I'm so excited for people to go check out Drive Back. Once again, it comes out this Friday, November
8th on
November
video
8th.
on demand. You can pre-order on Apple, Amazon, everywhere you get your video on demand movies.
Awesome. And Cody, we'll talk later.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.